Alright, so this is sort of a quick tutorial, and we're going to go ahead and pick up boots, and even a couple of pink words just to illustrate some of these ideas. And we're just going to show sort of the idea as to what it is that we are we're thinking about. So first things first, when we're thinking about the idea of warding, we want to think about what is the purpose of warding. And I know that seems like a very simplistic question, and a lot of us are probably going to be able to quickly identify the purpose of warding is one of many opportunities, right? So warding is a way for us to provide vision to our teammates, not only just to gank, but also to provide sort of counter gank measures, right? So we think about the map is split into, for our purposes, let's just say 4 quadrants, right? So we have the bottom left quadrant here on blue side, we have the top left quadrant here on red side, and then we have, of course, the blue side and red side, and the red side and blue side. Colors and things like that can be a little bit confusing. And so when we start on the blue side, the pretty standardized path when it comes to the jungle is starting off somewhere either over here or starting off near the blue side. I've seen some people go for, so most of the time we're looking at going for the Krug and then hopping over to red buff or hopping over to the Raptors, or we're starting over here at the big guy. But for the most part, we're just trying to think, what is it that we can do with our wards to provide some sort of assistance to our teammates? And the first thing that we're going to want to do is look at the different entrance ways that we have across the map, right? And these entrance ways sort of serve a multitude of purposes. Not only are they entrance ways at which we can cross, sort of imagine them as a threshold, but they're also entrance ways that allow our enemies to cross through. Now, when we think about a entranceway, we think about the different ways, the different paths that actually lead into this, right? So let's just take this entranceway in particular and just think about, from a very basic level, which different directions people come through. So we have direction 1 here from the mid lane, crossing this way. We have this opportunity, this little window right here. We have this side by the wolves and the blue buff, and then we of course have here. So we're basically at a 4-way crossroad. For our purposes, we're trying to dissect and make sense of where is it that we should put our wards to make the most sense out of everything that's going on. Well, if we're trying to figure out where the mid lane is going, if the mid lane is going to roam to the bot side, if the jungler is going to come through here or this end, a good warding place would be right here. Huzzah! So we have a ward that's placed here. We can see if the mid lane is sort of wandering this way. But we also have to think most people don't cross this path, and if they're actually going to head through the jungle, they can sort of go the long way there. Now, for our purposes, we're not going to worry about a champion like Evelynn, because with Evelynn, she sort of changes out the warding patterns as opposed to warding here or at some of the vantage points or chokeholds. You actually have to ward on the camps, so that when she is clearing the camps, as we'll put the ward down, we'll actually see the wolves move around, and we'll see her clearing it. So this is what we refer to as a deep ward. And deep ward can be very subjective, right? A deep ward sort of changes depending on where we are throughout the map. A deep ward, if we're playing defensively and we don't have any of our outer towers, can be somewhere at the middle line. Whereas if we're actually ahead or we have the opportunity to actually deep ward, it could be a little bit further out. Like a pink ward here, or even a ward over here. But for the most part, we're just trying to give us as much vision as possible. And not only are we trying to give ourselves as much vision as possible, we're trying to help our teammates in some way, which is why we're seeing an item like the Tracker's Blade from the jungle being particularly strong. Hey Penguin, what's going on? One of the things that we're thinking about, not only from the vision perspective, is sort of 2 categories, right? We want to think about it in terms of being offensive or being defensive. When we are playing offensive wards, we want to make sure that we're able to see things happening before they actually come to fruition. And when we're being defensive, we want to make sure that we are trying to be as safe as possible. Let's head over to the bot lane and see, for the most part, where it is that we usually place some sort of ward. The first thing that we have to consider is that when you are fighting as a bot lane, the biggest threats are a teleport from the top lane, a roam from the mid lane, and then a gank from the jungler. Now, depending on who the jungler is, let's say they are a Rek'Sai, they actually are able to come over this wall here, here to here. They're able to come from here to here. So again, the placement of wards starts to become theoretically a little bit more complex. But let's say we're going against a jungler who doesn't have a mechanism to jump over, We're just going against a jungler who has to actually manually path their way from the blue side of the jungle to the bot lane. So imagine that we're on the red side right now, we're on the red team, and we're trying to gank the blue team's AD carry here, a Caitlyn Janna. The first thing we want to think about is what areas could theoretically be warded at this point. And so at this sort of stage of the game, when it's still the laning phase, there are two towers that are present. They're probably dueling back and forth with each other. What we want to do is sort of figure out where are the wards, and common places for wards are probably right here. And of course, depending on if we are on sort of which side of the team we're on, right here, or more often maybe a little bit deeper, as to place right here as a counter jungle measure, or right here. Now with the mid lane, what's interesting is that you have the ability to place wards all across the map, and the wards obviously are a sort of byproduct and a mechanism to stop yourself from getting killed, but it's also a way to provide vision. So imagine we have this bush right here. This bush almost acts as a midpoint between their side of the jungle and the bot side, so it not only provides vision for us, but it provides vision for other people. Or if we go on the exact opposite side of the river for us, we are providing vision to our top lane. So you have to basically ask and evaluate which lane needs the most vision, because when we put a ward here, we actually are able to sort of prevent the enemy jungler from coming in this way. Now, if we prevent the enemy jungler, well, not necessarily prevent them, but we at least have knowledge or vision of them, that actually helps to influence our decisions. So if the enemy jungler is sort of coming in this particular area, we know that we have to make sure we are not too close here, otherwise he can kill us, or we have to be a little bit more cautious over here. But let's say we don't actually have vision at this part of the map, right? What do we do, and how is it that we play to our strengths? Well, up until level 9, you're most likely going to have a warding totem. And one of the things that you're going to want to do with this warding totem is to ward one specific side, let's say if you're mid laner, one specific side of the lane, and play to that side. So for instance, I only have one warding totem, I only have vision on one area. If I ward over here, I want to stay positioned on this side. And the reason why I want to stay positioned on this side is because if the jungler tries to make a gank happen, and let's say he is running over here, boom, he's spotted. But if we decide to ward over here, and we are standing on this side of the map without any vision, let's say this pink ward is not here, all of a sudden we have no idea if the jungler is coming from this side. We don't know if the jungler is coming from here. We have no idea if the jungler is coming from up here, although we just were able to get that with the trap. So we just have to think about the ways at which we put these wards, but also not only just how we put them and how we place them, but how is it that we actually position ourselves in accordance to with what those wards are. Now, let's go back to some of the ideas of gap closers. One of the things that we want to think about is that there are some champions that actually make a living off of sort of long-range assaults onto us, Kha'Zix, Zac, and champions like that. So for our purposes, putting a ward right here, let's say we're a mid lane Nidalee, sort of out of the meta right now, but let's say we're a mid lane Nidalee, and we're putting a ward right here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, we want to make sure that we're not getting ganked from the top side, because last time we saw that Zac was up top killing our Illaoi, poor Illaoi, no technical dream for them. We're going to assume that based on where they were previously, they are on that side of the jungle. So if we see the jungler for the enemy team up here top, we're going to assume that the ways at which they can gank us are through this path, and theoretically through this path if they make it all the way around here. Okay. Now, what we know at that point is we should probably just stay on the opposite side of the map, just to make sure that we're actually able to buy ourselves a little bit of time, and we're trying to stay as far away as possible from those people. What if we see that the jungler has tried to gank bot? Well, we should probably ward this side of our map, just as a way to, again, find out all the vision that is possible. So ultimately, it comes down to, let's smite that, never too good of an opportunity to take some of that gold. Let's think about just ultimately how it is that we maybe play some of these wards aggressively versus defensively. And again, this is something that is sort of a later on mechanic. For the top lane, let's look, we talked a little bit about mid, we talked a little bit about bottom. Let's talk about the top lane instead. For the top lane, there are a finite number, just like the rest of the lanes, there are a finite number of areas at which the jungler can come through. Okay, so area 1, or lane 1 that the jungler can come through, is right here. Area 2 is right here, and actually if we expand it, the actual area is right here and right here and right here. So this tri-bush actually has 3 areas of entrance into it, but for the most part, let's categorize this as sort of lane 1, at which they can come get us, lane 2, at which they can come get us, and then through the lane itself, so sort of avenue 3. So avenue 1, they can come get us, avenue 2, they can come get us, and avenue 3. Now each of these actually provides us with a different type of challenge that we need to sort of face. The first thing is, let's make a decision of warding this side of the jungle. So we place a ward down here. Now all of a sudden we have this avenue pretty well warded, right? But we also have a little sliver right here warded as well. Now the reason that we place the ward inside of the bush as opposed to placing the ward, let's say, right here, because I think the first thing that might come to your mind is, well, why wouldn't we put the ward right here? All of a sudden we have an expanded view of the tri-bush, and we have just about the same view if they decide to come up here. One of the reasons we decide to put the ward in the bush is because if the jungler is pathing this way, they're pathing, they go into the bush, all of a sudden, poof, like Houdini, they are gone. Now, what we can surmise from this is sort of one of two things. Thing one is that they're probably in that bush still, and thing two is maybe they decided to back. They've been spotted, maybe the person on the team has alerted them that they've been spotted, and they just decide to go back. Now we're in a guessing game. Just like the warding is a guessing game, us putting ourselves in this position is a guessing game. Because the ward is not inside of the brush itself, we have to just surmise with the information that we have. If their top laner starts to go aggressive on us, we're probably going to guess that their jungler is still somewhere over here. That's another thing. Let's say we're going to ward right here instead of this area. All of a sudden we have vision of this very small area. Let's make sort of a little semicircle as to the area that we have. That inherently means that we don't have vision right here, and we don't have vision of the lane. And really, as a top laner with the tower up, there isn't a lot of benefit to putting a deep ward on the top side, unless we have a lot of vision too. We could theoretically put it here, or we could put one here, or if we're really feeling fancy, and this is the secret pink ward of doom that no one actually finds, we can actually put the pink ward right here. And it'll give us vision of the respawn of the red. We'll see them coming if they decide to come through base, through top side, or up this way. Or if we're feeling particularly ambitious again, we could actually put a ward here. And each of these are just allowing us to have additional vision. Now, we have a finite number of wards, especially because we've taken out green wards from the game, we being Riot. So when we place a ward here, let's say we only have one functional ward to work with. When we see a Kha'Zix jungle on the enemy team coming through here, we see him clear the camp. The second he moves to about here, our vision of him has gone. But we are informed a little bit. We know that for the last 10 seconds, Kha'Zix has been top side of the jungle. And so what do we do with this knowledge? What do we do with this information? The first thing that we'll want to do is try to make sense as to what is going to happen next. If our mid lane is here, and they have some of this top side warded, we're in pretty good situation to make sure that they are not getting killed, although, of course, mistakes happen. But we also want to make sure, let's go back to the example of us being a top laner, we also want to make sure that we are then prepared, knowing that Kha'Zix is on the top side of the jungle, we are then prepared to make a decision in accordance with that. So we see that Kha'Zix, we've been saving our ward for quite some time, we see that Kha'Zix is top side, we make a decision to really quickly and unimpededly put a ward down here, and now at this point we are pretty much safe to play around this area until we get to one side of the map. So let's see this. So we have vision right here. So we have vision of sort of Avenue 1 as we've described it before. But when we get to this point, see how the fog of war is slowly starting to disappear on us? Notice how when we walk up here, we're standing in this lane. We still don't have vision right here. We don't have vision of them under tower, and we don't have vision of the tri-brush. So even though we have these minions that are here, we actually don't have full vision, and as a result of that, we're actually not able to make a very smart decision as a result. So we just have to figure out where it is that the fog of war takes us, and how it is that we make decisions based on that. So from a very basic level, generally speaking, when you are a top lane, the first ward that you're going to want to place is a ward probably right over here, or a ward over here. So just very basic. A lot of this changes once the towers have gone. So either ward here or ward here. If you are a mid laner, you'll want to place a ward here, here, or here, sort of in a triangle-like fashion. That way you have a little bit of vision from the Scuttle Crab, you have a little bit of vision from them coming from their side of the jungle, and then if they are coming from either up here, curving around this way, or over here, you'll have vision once they get close to the lane. But of course, the closer they are when you find out that they're there, the shorter reaction time you have. Or if we flip it a little bit over, you want vision here, you want vision here, or you want vision here. Keep in mind when you're buying a pink ward, you're going to have to defend it, right? That's 75 gold. In order to enable yourself to have vision, sometimes you're going to end up buying multiple pink wards throughout the game. If you're the jungler and you want to be able to counter gank them, you're going to want to put a pink ward or some other ward over here so that we can see when the blue respawns. Perhaps we'll put another ward over here to see if they're waiting in the tri-bush. And if you're a bot lane, if you are the AD carry or support, you'll want vision about right here. You want vision here. And then, of course, you'll want vision over here. Assuming that you guys are sort of on equal footing. They are on this side. The red team is on this side. You're on this side. Everything's about equal. When you put a ward over here, it allows you to get vision of them if they decide to duck into the brush and, let's say, get the minions to stop attacking them. If for whatever reason you are on the blue side and they have pushed you in a little bit further over here, you want to make sure that you get a ward right here. That way we can see if someone is coming through the lane. And you want to make sure that you get a ward right here, if there is not already a ward in that place. And if there is a ward here and you spot someone coming, you're going to want to put a ward here, or you're going to want to put a ward right here. That way you can see if they've decided to commit to it. But if you guys are low enough, you should probably back anyway. So those are sort of just general areas, general positions at which you should start placing a lot of these wards in the first place. So that is my my basic warding tutorial. It's not terribly complex. It doesn't give you all the answers, but hopefully it gives you some knowledge or some insight as to where to position the wards, especially in accordance to where you are. If you're playing from behind, let's say the enemy team is pushing into you consistently, you're going to want to sort of ward your jungle in accordance to that. So let's say all the towers, let's say this mid tower is gone, this bottom tower is gone, and you want to be able to not only farm your jungle, but you want to be able to check dragon. The first thing you're going to want to do is ward here, just to give yourself a little bit of insight. You'll probably want to ward here, and ward here. Again, all of the theoretical entrances that are there. But you also, if let's say we switch the role here, and we want to get on their side, you're going to want to ward here, you're going to want to ward here, and then even ward here or by Baron Pit. And Baron Pit warding is a little bit more tricky as the game comes on. So that's it. So far, I think that is something to sort of get you started. The main thing is that not only does the warding sort of help you in terms of envisioning the game on a bigger picture, but it also, in theory, helps you understand where it is that you should be in accordance with other players in the game. Oftentimes, we actually take sort of warding and vision for granted. It's actually the responsibility of everyone. Just because the support has the Sightstone item doesn't necessarily mean that they are the individuals who should be warding. If you are a mid laner and you buy a pink ward and the pink ward dies, it's your responsibility to buy another one. The more vision that you could provide for your team, the more information you have, the better educated your decisions are going to be. And then at the end of all of this, hopefully everything goes according to plan. And now I'm just kind of messing around in the jungle. But yeah, I'll try to do a better job in game as to sort of describing what it is that you should be looking for as the game progresses. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I would always be more than happy to answer those for you. I'm going to leave game and then actually start up another game, but I'm going to grab some water too. So if you have any questions,